Hello everyone, gonna set up really quickly. I'm not as prepared today, but just hang on 1 second. Plug in this microphone. And
Ever wonder why so many people...
I don't know what that is. How are you? I'm gonna set up really quick. It's gonna be just a minute and I'm gonna start. I hope this finds you all well. Sorry, I'm sure there's a lot of noise now. Hello, hello, check. Okay. I'm gonna start the chat so I can see myself. And all right. Ray, what's up, Ray? Heavy metal. Can you hear me? Please, go ahead and write your name in the chat, and maybe even where you're from. And yeah, great. Let me know if there's any problem with the audio. I'm gonna set up the guitar now, and we'll start. Instead of just waiting around, I'll just go ahead and start, because then these videos will be up on YouTube, and so people don't have to sit through minutes of nothing. As you see, I picked up, hello Jules. Jules Verne, one of my favorite writers. How's it going? So I'm using this guitar today. You know, I usually with my Parkers, but we're gonna talk about modes, at least in the beginning of the video, then I'll open it up to questions. And so it's useful for you to see the dots on the guitar so you can figure, you know, you can find your way around. So while I wait for the chat to fill, or at least to almost fill, I'm going to talk about modes a little bit and see how you can practice them. From Turkey, my favorite too, also you are my favorite player. Well, thank you very much, Jules. I'm going to talk about modes a little bit now, if you guys don't mind, just because I thought maybe since we're going to be doing this for a long time, at least here in Barcelona, we just got word that we're going to be confined and quarantined for at least another 3 weeks. So I'm sure there'll be plenty of these videos, and I thought that maybe we should kind of get a direction in the beginning, and then of course you can ask any questions as always. Okay, so today I thought maybe, because somebody brought it up last time, we can talk about the modes just a little bit. And I kind of mentioned how I used to practice them when I was starting out. I was maybe 15 or, well, maybe 17 or something like that when I started getting into them. And okay, and I use this technique because I figured out what modes were, but I'm gonna go into it with you. And I didn't have a looper then, so I would do everything in E, right? So I could play E major, and then do all the modes, and guess the E. But nowadays there's more technology, so we have loopers. And I set up a loop before I logged on with just a simple C major. I'm sorry, just a simple C. This is just C notes, right? If it drives you crazy, let me know, but I'll talk over it if you don't mind. And these are just Cs, they're just 2 octaves. So it's only Cs, and I know that over these 2 Cs I can play all the modes. If I were to play a normal chord, then this would only work for 1 or 2 modes or 3, you know, but it would be limited. So if you only have a note, you can practice the mode. And here's how I would do it if I were just starting out. First of all, you have to find the formula for all the modes, but I'll help you out with it right here because it's simple. So I'm gonna start with C major, and I can play it anywhere on the neck, but I'm gonna find somewhere that is easy, right? So maybe, I hope you can see what I'm playing. I'm going from the 10th fret on the 4th string. Is it too loud, the guitar over the voice? Let me lower it down a little bit. You guys let me know in the chat if you can't hear either me talking or the guitar. So now I have this C major scale, and before I start going crazy with it, I would just sit there and listen to every note against the root, right? Because each note has a sound. And because the modes are based on changing some of these notes, it's important to figure out exactly what the normal notes sound like before you go on and alter them. So I would go and pick my favorites, right? All right, thanks. I'll leave the volumes as they are. Right, and I listen to what note maybe is peaceful, right? And what notes kind of have a pull, like that, or like that. You see, I'm I'm trying to figure out exactly what the C major scale sounds like. And then, of course, I move it all across the fretboard. But today we're not pressed for time. But you know, we don't want to stay here for 3 hours of talking about this. So then I would move on to the next mode, and you can go through the modes in order, like Ionian, Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, Mixolydian, and so on. But I would probably go, if I were you, if I were starting out with them, I would go to the next closest mode, right? So if I'm in C major, one close mode to it is Lydian, which is the same scale, but the fourth note goes up 1/2 step. How you figure it out is very simple. 1, 2, 3, 4. Instead of playing this 4, 4, you play this one. The rest is the same. And because I already have in my head the sound of the major scale, I can focus on this stuff, right? What does this note do to the scale and to the feel? And as soon as I figure that out, I start thinking, well, what does this do in respect to the other notes? Like, I can get some strange sound, and I can figure them out just by simply contrasting them with what was previously the major scale, which, if you think about it, it was much more normal than this, but this sounds more interesting. You see, so for example, I would do C major, C Lydian, and stay with it a long time, and then think, well, what's the next mode that I could work on? And another very similar mode to C major is C Mixolydian, which is the same scale as C major, but this note, the 7th, we lower it 1/2 step. So it's C, D, E, F, G, A, B flat. You hear that? Major, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and it pushes towards the 1. But if I do Mixolydian, C, D, E, F, G, A, B flat, it kind of stays there, or it can go up. And so again, I take everything I knew from major, like what notes are quiet, what notes are tense, what notes I like, what notes I don't like, and I can just add this sound. I love Mixolydian. And why do I like it, right? And so I can figure out, okay, well, I like the feel of it's light. You hear it? It's kind of airy. It's kind of happy. So I blame it on the flat 7. And so from now on, whenever I can use a Mixolydian, maybe I will, and I will do it to get this particular sound. Okay, so that's the first half of the modes. These modes are derived by modifying a major scale. So we take the major scale and we raise the 4th, or we lower the 7th. But then there's another big family of modes, which is the minor scale. So there's many ways to get to it, but for now we'll just do it in C again. So the C minor scale is like this. Right? I'm sure you know how to play, but here's what I'm doing. 10, 12, 13 twice. 11, 13. And it's root, major 7th, minor 3rd, 4th and 5th, minor 6th, minor 7th, and root again. And so this is my basis for the minor modes, but I will stay with this scale for a long time and figure out again where the tensions are, where the resolutions are, where I like the sound, where I don't like the sound. I like all of it, so I won't play everything. But and I noticed that some notes that, for example, like this B flat in the Mixolydian made the sound happy. In minor, they don't. So I start getting a feel for, as a beginner musician, I start to get the sense that it is not really the note that counts, it's what's around it. So that opens up tons of possibilities also later on. But anyway, I have my minor scale. And now I can take, for Dorian, the 6th note, and raise it up. Right? And then I can take the second to make it Phrygian. And I get this very specific sound. Of the Phrygian scale. And then there's a Locrian, but it's a bit strange. Let me stop this, it's driving me crazy. But yeah, so that's how I would go about studying the modes when I was starting out. Now think about this, that we've done it in C, but you can do this with the modes on all keys, right? So the same as I recorded this little loop in C, I could record in E flat, D flat, and F and G, and so on. And so if I do that, then I have to do all the modes again. And then we started to realize that it doesn't matter where I play them, they all sound the same. They have that mode color, independently of how many sharps, how many flats, you know, how difficult it is to read or to play. It doesn't matter. What matters is the distances between the notes. And so we get very into intervals and ear training. And that's why in the latest, the short 1 minute videos I'm making, I stress a lot on ear training and intervals, because otherwise it's really hard to understand why do you even play the modes. And I'll stop now, but just one more thing about the modes is that when you start out and somebody who knows how to play shows you the modes, you think, wow, those are the best thing ever. You know, I can get all these, I can go from happy to sad to I'm not sure to kind of in between. But then when you play them, they sound like a major scale. And so it's really important to do it a lot and focus on the intervals instead of on, you know, formulas and the names. You have to really think of, well, I'm raising this interval and lowering that. But anyway, unless you have more questions about this, I'll stop. But you know, every time we go live, maybe I do a little 10 minutes. I'll talk about a certain thing and then we'll open it up to questions. All right, so I hope you enjoy that. If you have any questions about this, of course, feel free to ask. Otherwise, any question is good. And we have one already. Sam, hello Sam. How do you increase your picking speed? I want to play the solo of Master of Puppets. Okay. Pat Metheny thinks your solo sound like scale exercises. Wow. Well, if Pat Metheny thinks that, you have to take that seriously. But it's great that you had Pat listen to your playing. Well, there's two different questions. For speed picking, you can go back actually. I'm not trying to promote my own videos, but just a few weeks ago, or maybe even days ago, I released a short video about alternate picking. But what I would suggest is this. One of the biggest misconceptions about practicing with the pick is to play slow. Of course, you have to play slow, but not playing slowly won't make you better. You have to play perfect. And usually, you can only play perfect when you go slowly, but it's not a requisite, and it's not a condition, and it's not a guarantee, because you can play slowly, and that's just as bad as playing fast. So find the speed that allows you, or maybe even a scale. I'm alternating. It's really hard to see myself backwards in the camera, but I'm alternating with my pick. And I'm doing it properly in time, with the same attack, with the same timbre, with the same articulation for the notes, right? So that's maybe my speed to practice. But if I were doing a different scale, then I would probably have to do it slower. So if I'm playing the I don't know, right? For a strange scale like this, maybe I'm not used to it, and then I have to practice slower. So find the basic, the minimum speed where you can actually control everything you're doing. And here's my advice on how to do it from there. So you have to start there, otherwise this won't work. But once you know how to do it properly, then you set your metronome at whatever speed you're at. So maybe you're at 1 per beat, like tick, or tick, tack, tick, tack, tick, tack, tick, tack, tick, tack, tick, like that with the metronome. If you're playing 1 note per beat, I would say go up 10 by 10 every time you can play it perfectly, like, I don't know, 5 times or 10 times straight. So you go 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, 110, 120. Then as soon as you got that, so maybe you're playing 120, bum, 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 1 per beat. Then you move the metronome down to 60 and you do it twice per beat. Now the speed is the same, maybe a bit slower. The speed is the same, but I'm in my head. I have to divide the actual the beat into 2 equal parts. So that's the added difficulty. And when you can do this 10 times straight, no mistakes, and sounding great, then you go up. But this time you have to go up 5 by 5, so 60, 65, 70, 75, 80, because you're doing 2 notes per beat, so it's going to be twice as fast. The increase is going to be twice as fast as what you're used to at 1 per beat. So you go 60, 65, and so on. You get to 120 again, and then I would go back again to 60 and do 4. Tick, tack, tick. And then from here you go up 3 by 3, so 60, 63, 66, 60, 69, 72, and so on. So basically you're fooling your brain into always increasing the same amount, and that's a trick for me. Of course, if the exercise is in triplets, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, I will go from 1 per beat to 180, and then 60, 3 notes per beat. Okay, so that's what I would do to increase speed. And you can do it with anything. It doesn't really matter if you practice correctly, which means controlling both hands. Everything you practice works. I'm not really a believer in specific exercises, because then you'll just develop that exercise. But if you develop the way you practice, then you're always improving. You're always you're always thinking about how clean you're playing, how pure your technique is. So I wouldn't talk about specific exercises. And then the other question is, your solo sounds like scales. Well, that's a long answer, but if you listen to people whose solo you enjoy, that's very important, because even Pat Metheny, if he thinks you sound like scales, maybe that's the way you like to sound. I mean, I would certainly listen to what Pat Metheny says, but in the end, it's your music. So first of all, try to get in your head what it is you like to hear, because that's what you have to play. You have to play what you like to hear. And then focus on players who have that kind of style, maybe, or that kind of voice on the instrument. And you'll see that solos, not all of them, but a lot of good ones, they follow an arc like this. So they go like, okay, well, here's an introduction maybe, then there's a development, then there's a climax, which sometimes is at the end, but sometimes it's not, and then you have that trickle-down effect. Sometimes the solos end on the highest note, and sometimes the solos work their way down, and then the song starts again. So I would say listen to that, and then it depends on the music as well. Like some kind of circular things that are possible in jazz, maybe, like a solo is more like sometimes a showcase of the control of triads and that kind of stuff. In rock, is not really, it wouldn't be tolerated, because rock solos are shorter. Okay, I'm gonna go to more questions now. Alex, how are you? Related to speed, tension is always my main problem, not being relaxed. Yeah, well, tensions you really work on. I mean, Alex, before I answer, he's a great guitar player, so he doesn't need my advice. But if it's of help to anyone else, yeah, if it's of any help. Tension comes from, we talked about earlier about going up in speed, so let's take that as a basis, right? Tension comes from if you're playing too fast, too soon, right? So if I'm playing just a scale, and this is my speed, but I'm playing like this, and I'm playing too fast for my own good. Now, I might be able to work my way up to this speed and kind of get a decent sound, but I'm building up all the little mistakes that I could catch and fix a bit slower. They're building up, and then eventually they rush forward, and I see them. But I'm seeing them all together, and so the only answer is to tense up and see what happens. So my trick is go way back, right? So if you get to 120 and you're like, wow, this is hard, and I'm feeling tense. Well, I wouldn't fix the problem at 120. I wouldn't practice at the speed. I would practice at 90, for example, or 80. And then you might be able to catch the first glimpse of, the first, what do you call that, clue of tension. You'll find it at maybe like 85, right? So that's where you fix that first one. Then you go up to 90 and you go like, wow, now I'm seeing the other one. But when you were at 120, you had to deal with all of them together. That's what usually makes you tense. And I've seen that in a lot of people, and that's how you practice it. you always go back. So if you find that you can't play at a certain speed, go way back and then slowly work your way up. And you'll see that it works very well. Also, practice much slower than you will eventually play. You know, I almost never practice fast. I'm going a bit faster now because I see there's quite a few questions. How tight are you holding the pick? Okay, not at all, actually. And actually, again, I'm very sorry to advise on my own videos, but there's a video just released, and it's how I hold the pick, and it's 1 minute long, so check it out. It's just, it's serendipity that you ask that question right now, but yeah, that's what I talk about in that video. But basically, I'm holding it like this, and there's almost no tension here. Like if I do this, I can grab it. And this is my usual technique. But then I have the control here to either press a bit harder, that gives me a different kind of attack. Or if I play lower closer to the bridge, I tend to grab it a bit harder. And also I can decide how much of the pick hangs from the fingers. So maybe I can relax the grip a little bit and let it loose so I can play chords. And it sounds very different than if I play them like this. You know, it depends, but usually not at all. Usually I'm just, you know, holding it like this and there's no tension, like nothing. Just the weight of the finger. Okay, so one more question. Jules, how do we do exercises? Parallel modes, C major, C Dorian. Yeah. Okay. Well, as far as the parallel modes, you should do it exactly as I said at the beginning of the video. So if you weren't here, I think you were, but if you weren't, just go back and look at that, watch that part of the video. So with you take a root and you just play all the modes, starting from what did I play? Like that, better. So C major, C minor, Phrygian, Dorian, here of course, and then all over the fretboard. That's the parallel modes, but the relative modes are a bit easier. So the way relative modes work, if you guys don't know, it's you have a C major scale, and usually we consider C to be the root. So C major sounds like C major. Let me put the pedal note. This is a C, right? So I can play C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, right? Now, if I start from D, now this pedal note won't work again, because if I start from D now, and I play the same notes, it's still a C major scale, but my root, the one I consider to be the root, now changes to D. And this scale is called D Dorian. If I start the scale from E, then it's called Phrygian. And so on. I don't know if I would suggest this mode of practicing, because usually you won't be really moving from one mode to a relative mode. You know, usually what you want is control of any mode in any key, and you do that by starting from the major scale and modifying it. And this is a huge subject, and I think maybe this is a bit too different a platform to do it. But you know, for now, I would just say I would suggest you study the parallel modes, even if they're a bit harder to grasp at the beginning. Okay, sing a melody and sing a melody and then transpose it to the guitar. Oh yeah, that's the best way to do it. As a matter of fact, that's how I write most of my songs. I usually come up with something in my head, and not always. I don't want to be one of those guys who say, well, I was just taking a shower and In Dreams came out. You know, but sometimes it is, and sometimes it's either a melody and then I work the music around it. There's a song called All in My Head, which just came up. The melody was so clear in my head, I just came to the studio and recorded it. Simple. And sometimes, even if I have a riff before, even if I have a short chord progression, instead of just playing over it many times, which I enjoy sometimes, but I just let it sit in my ear. You know, I listen to the chord progression many times, and then I go for a walk or something, and slowly the melody comes up in my head. And actually, this song was called In Dreams, and it's called In Dreams because I woke up one morning and I had it. And so, you know, singing something in your head is great practice. So yeah, Alex, you're right. Okay, please could you explain how to use harmonically the melodic minor scale? Yes, I was going to say actually today to focus on the regular modes, because you call it the harmonic or melodic? Melodic. Yeah, because there are three minor scales. One is the regular minor scale, which is in A, B, C, D, E, F, G, like that. And then there are two variants of this scale. One raises the 7th, which is the harmonic, and one is the melodic, which also raises the 6th. And I'll get into it just a little bit. I don't think, what's her name? Vico, I don't know if we should do this today because it's such a huge subject, but maybe we can do it like for the next Hangout. I can start with that and then I can talk about it a bit more. But briefly, if you have a scale that's like, let's take the the melodic minor, which is the one he talks about. It's like a minor scale, but we raise the 6th and 7th, which is the same as saying, as a matter of fact, I see them like this. They're a major scale with the minor 3rd. Like that. And if you do that, then you open yourself up to having 7 modes of that, well, 6 more, right? You have that minor scale plus all the modes of that minor scale. And the harmonic minor, actually, almost all of the modes are useful. And the melodic minor. The harmonic minor, not all of them, some of them are kind of weird, but the way I play it is that there are chords that, and it's not the only way by any means, but there are chords that are open to many more modes than the usual ones, right? Just a simple example is A minor. If I play A minor, the only notes that are specified in A minor are A, C, and sorry, I'm trying to read the question at the same time. Okay, I'll get to that in a second, Sam. A, C, and E, that's my chord. And so as long as A, C, and E are in my scale, I can play whatever I want over it. And so that's the way I look at it. So any chord that allows for the harmonic minor, I use it. And also the modes. I'm just going to give you very quickly my favorite mode of the harmonic minor. Not the only one, but my favorite is probably the Lydian Dominant, which is a mix of Lydian and Mixolydian. And so why would I play this harmonically, as you ask? Probably on a 7th chord. Instead of playing a 7th chord with the pentatonic, or simply a Mixolydian, I might play the Lydian Dominant. You see, that's what I would do. Pick, know all my chords, know all my modes, and know which modes are available for any chord. Okay, but again, maybe we can get into more depth with it when, at a separate time. But thanks for the question. Why is it difficult to play while standing? Sovesh, yeah, well, it's only difficult if you don't practice it. So, band practice is great for getting used to it. Or maybe just sometimes, do maybe 1 hour sitting down, 1 hour standing up. I always play standing up at least a few hours a day because it's good. It's not good to be sitting all day. And also it's to be, to have all my technique and my agility available to me when I play live. I have to get used to it. And so, yeah, I know it is more difficult because I think we just don't hold the guitar the same way. That's why it's more difficult. It's not more difficult, it's just you're not used to it. Is singing along to the A section of jazz solos cool? Well, singing along to anything is cool. Any scale you practice, chords. That's what was most useful to me was singing along to. Okay, yes, singing along to chords. I find it very useful because scales, you kind of get into the groove of the scale, and your ear, is helped by the environment, right? So, for example, I play C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. These last 3 or 4 notes, I already know what to expect because I'm in the scale. But chords are different because even a simple chord like a minor chord, like a minor 7th, it sounds, if I play like this, I have to sing a 7th first, then this diminished 5th, and then and then this minor third. So it's very hard for me to practice all these intervals. But then when I move it to, let's say, another fingering for A minor, maybe this one, I have a fifth first, then a third, and then I have the strange diminished fifth, right? So it's I find it very useful to sing actual chords instead of melodies, but you know, all of them are good. For sweep, you can do the same principles apply you discussed. I can do the major scale, but it's very easy. But I'm working on sweeping over mixolydian. Yeah, no. Everything that has to do with technique, I would, you know, bring back to that method. Always play, not necessarily slow, but at a speed that is, right? If I'm playing a bit of an arpeggio, at what speed can I play it properly and in control, and then slowly raise it little by little, as we said, because that way I can trick my brain into thinking that I'm always playing at the same speed, and so at least hopefully I'm not changing my technique from speed to speed. Because one of the biggest problems with people who can't play fast is they have a separate technique for playing slowly and for playing faster, and that's what kills it. You know, you have to have a consistent technique. Sorry, let me have some lubricant. Right? Maybe the strap needs to be adjusted. Different people need the guitar strap. Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, maybe you have your guitar hanging too low or too high. You know, too high is kind of easier to play, but nobody wants to do it because you look like an idiot, like this. I know, I don't want to say I like an idiot, but you know. And low is cool, but for example, I have an exact position, and all my guitars, especially the Parkers, which are the ones I use live all the time, and I use them actually a lot of the time, I have the same strap. I bought 3 of the same straps because I thought that somehow they would feel different, and so I have the exact measure of the length, and I have 3 straps that are exactly the same. I bought 3 of the same, which I think it's overdoing it. And can you discuss playing outside? Is it possible to create a chord progression that is entirely on the Lydian Dominant? Wow. Okay, so this is getting advanced pretty quickly. If I can discuss playing outside, if it's in the jazz sense, I would say so that anybody can understand. First of all, I'm not a good jazz player, never been, probably never will be, but I am interested, same as classical. I've studied a lot of classical theory and harmony and counterpoint and form, you know, and then I apply it, but I'm basically a rock and roll guitar player. So I will admit to any stupid things that I might say right now, but my approach to playing outside, if that's what you call it, because if you're not familiar with my music, it's not really jazzy, but there are things that create certain feel of being a bit more, not advanced, but, you know, more complex. But, you know, I'm kind of hiding behind them. I'm a rock player. But for playing outside, there are tricks, you know, and one of them that I always enjoyed was the chromatics. The problem is, though, when you start adding notes that are outside, you can always go and find the scale that has those notes, and that's how I usually end up approaching it, because I come from rock, so I have all my scales in place, and then when I add notes that are weird, I'm always kind of bringing them back to a scale that I know, right? For example, a stupid example, well, not stupid, but you know, it may be a bit more easy than what you were thinking. It's the Pentatonic Scale. So there's a scale that's very useful, which in blues especially, and blues rock, which is dropping the 7th and putting in the 6th. So for me, that would be a new scale, or maybe it's not really outside, but you know, it's a strange note. But I'm always thinking, well, how can I fit it in with everything else I know? And to me, this is kind of a strange variant of a Dorian, right? And I can play all of it, or just play a part. Now I'm respecting the pentatonic, but to me, in my head, around this pentatonic with the 6th, I have all these other notes. Another example would be over a 7th chord or an altered chord, playing the half diminished scale, right? That's considered outside, but I wouldn't say I'm an expert on it. I think I can do it, but in my own way. So I don't know if I'm comfortable, at least in this setting, you know, without having a student face to face and being able to be precise about it. I don't know if I can give any advice, because this stuff will be stuck on YouTube for a long time. So If you have more specific questions, I'll be happy to, but this is a subject that I think goes beyond most people's level. No condescendence at all, just true. And also my ability to express it in a traditional way. Is it possible to create a chord progression that is entirely on the Lydian Dominant? Yeah, of course. Yeah, any mode. You can create a chord progression that's entirely in any mode. The best way to see it is that you are seeing it from the main scale, right? So if you have or even Lydian Dominant. If you have Lydian Dominant, you still have 7 notes. And let's do it in, I don't know, C is good. It doesn't matter really. There's going to be a few sharps and flats anyway. But let's do C, right? So we have C Lydian Dominant. The notes of C Lydian Dominant is C, D, E, F sharp, G, A, B flat, C. Now, if you want to establish this mode, like exactly in the chord, then you have to play a chord like a 7th chord with a flat 5 or a sharp 11. You know, a chord that has the sound of the mode inside the actual chord. If you want to go the other way, you can be as abstract as as vague with the chord, right? And you put the sound of the mode sorry, that's a note. You put the sound of the mode over the chord, right? So this is for C. If you want to add one more chord, just do 2 chords. You could work with any amount. If I add another chord after C, then that chord, I have 2 options. To make that second chord as specific as the first one, or as vague as the first one, or balanced. So for example, have a chord that's very specific in the one, and the next chord to be like a 5th. And that way, I can go in and out of that mode. You know, so it doesn't really. It works like everything else. Think about playing in D Dorian. D Dorian is the same as C major, right? So any chord progression that starts in D minor that has more chords, those chords will have to come from the C major scale, right? And it would be 100% D Dorian. So if you want to do it in Lydian Dominant, you just have to take all the right notes, all the right chords, sorry, that are built on the mother scale, which in this case would be melodic minor scale. So as long as all those chords are the same chords that come with the melodic minor, the major and the minor major 7th and the augmented and so on, of course your progression will actually be in Lydian Dominant. And then Sovesh, hello again, thank you so much. I'll practice more during the quarantine period and get better. Best wishes from India. Oh yeah, from India. I loved India. Yeah, you stay safe too, my friend. I don't know how India is. How are you guys doing? I hope you guys are okay. You know, I haven't heard in the news. I think you're better off than most of us. But yeah, please be careful. Where are you from in India? I loved India. I've been there and loved it. The Fiend, hello. Hello. Look, I managed to answer all the questions. Badly, I'm sure, but we've got to the... Yowie. All right. So if you have more questions, please go ahead and leave them. But yeah, the basic idea about making stuff more interesting is having you can practice it by having a very simple chord, like a chord that allows for many sounds. Like, for example, you can have like a 5th chord. And this 5th chord only ties you to a root and a 5th, nothing else. And you know, so everything else, you see, yeah, everything else can be practiced over it. You're the only one who can match Elias. I'm sorry, who's Elias? I'm sorry, maybe I should know who it is. I'm very bad with, if it's somebody on YouTube, forget it. I suck at this. I'm always playing the guitar. Can you discuss playing over chord changes? Yes, of course. And can you Kutako Disha. Can we incorporate Indian music with Western music? Yes. Hi, Andrew. Hola, Daniele. Hey, Andrew. Kim from Sacramento. You're all. Oh yeah, I miss hearing you play, and I'm glad you are well. Well, how are you? I thought I would stop by and check in on you. Well, you never know who follows you on these things. Well, hello, Kim. I hope you're well. I hope you're safe at home. And get in touch. You know, we'll talk. We'll talk in. We'll talk somewhere else. But yeah, man, it's been a long time. So yeah, I'm safe. Thank you very much. I hope you are too. And yeah, well, it's great. It's great to hear from you. So let's go back to. Can you discuss playing over chord changes? Of course, yes, I can. And playing over chord changes. Let's bring it back to the simple stuff. It's very simple. There are two main options here with chord changes. The idea is what I'm sure you're implying, Stephen, is that you have one or more chords and you have to figure out what you can play over them. So some of this we've seen today because we talked about playing over a simple chord by being able to playing all kinds of scales as long as they respect the sound of this simple chord. But what if you have a chord progression? In the most basic sense, when you're playing two chords, for example, let's do very simple C major to G major to C major, and the one is C, right? So I'm playing C major over both of them because both of them fit within the C major scale. Sorry, major. I can play C major over both of them because they come from the same scale. But the other way I can look at it is say, okay, well, I can take each chord as their own separate entities. So I could have a section that plays over C, and then over C, I know that I can play several scales. I can play C major, I can play C Lydian, I can play C mixolydian, right? I can do all that stuff, but some of those scales that I play on C won't be able to translate to the G. For example, if I play C Lydian on C major, it will work with G, but C mixolydian won't because G has a B and mixolydian has a B flat. Okay, so this is the two main schools, and you can mix and match. I do it all the time. Sometimes it's good to just vamp over something, so you have a chord progression that fits within a certain scale, and then you can play the scale over the whole progression, and technically you'll be playing a mode of each chord, but the ear brings it back to the one anyway, so you're actually playing C major. And the other way is to go like, okay, well, each chord is a world unto itself, and then I'll play a scale for each mode. And you can do it out of necessity or because you want to. I mentioned a few videos ago that I have a song called Midnight Driver where the solo is actually a simple fifth chord, but it keeps going up by half steps, and there are no scales that fit with that pattern. And so I had to decide which ones I put together, which ones I separate, which ones, that's how I do it. To be free to be free enough to do that, you have to know basically all your scales and all your chords. There's no other way around except for using your ear, which is good, but it can get tiring when you're writing a lot of songs and you have to figure it out by trial and mistake. Besides, I find that playing by just guessing, I see with people who are not there yet with their knowledge that they kind of find something that works, and it's so much work to find that something that works that then they get stuck and they kind of try to repeat it all the time because they don't have to go through it again. So that's how I look at playing over chord progressions. Okay, Daniele, how about chords with... Okay, Elias is a famous guitarist. Well, I'm very sorry, I don't know him, but I'll check him out. How about chords with electric guitar? I mean, sometimes a guitarist in a song does power chords, and sometimes they do the full chord in first position. Why do they choose one? Well, as we talked about before, it's all about the sound. Sometimes you want power chords, sometimes you want full chords. Sometimes the arrangement of the song allows for something, and sometimes it doesn't. And also it depends on the kind of chord. That's one thing. When you have a distorted sound, this is not very distorted, but I just wanted something for this video so I could play kind of everything. And if you have any kind of dissonance, like even a minor third, it doesn't agree well with distortion. The more notes you add, then the worse it gets. And that has to do with harmonics and that kind of stuff. But usually you're kind of forced into one thing or the other. If you have a clean sound, you can play anything you want. But that's why rock and roll uses power chords so much. It's not because people are ignorant and they don't know better chords. It's just that they have this sound. And then what I like to do, for example, if I have power chords, I can imply certain chords by what I'm playing on top. Right, so if I have a C, I can just I'm giving it a different sound, like a ninth, a minor ninth, and stuff like that. I do it just by selecting different melodies over it. How do you approach call and response in guitar licks? Hello, I'm gonna butcher your name, but Sabyasachi? Okay, well, I don't. It's not something I'm really too concerned about, but usually it's just comes by experience. But it is true. Call and response is a great thing to practice if you find your melodies to, that they're not going anywhere. And I see it a lot with myself, a lot of times when I'm writing music, but also with other people, with students. They have a hard time putting a good melody together, and they say, well, how come your melody is good? And it's not that difficult to play it. Melodies tend to be simple, so we're all in the same boat. It's not like I have this incredible technique that allows me to play. Anybody can play that, right? But the timing, the selection of notes, what notes are longer, what notes are shorter, what notes land on the strong beats, which notes are on the weak beat, it all contributes to having a strong melody or a weak one. And so for practice, I would suggest using very few notes and very short phrases. I don't know if we can come up with something like maybe play just the first 5 notes of the major scale, C, D, E, F, G, and go like, well, which one of these notes feels like a question, like an open, doesn't have to be a question, but which one of these notes feel like an open sentence, like something that's not concluded? So maybe this feels like it needs something, right? And this feels like it's closing it, but maybe we can close it further. I cheated a little bit. I played a B, but you see what I mean. I'm kind of feeling the need for my ear to hear something that opens up and then it's resolved. That's a trick, and you can do it by limiting yourself. Think also that most great melodies are not. They don't have this very wide range. They're not usually more than an octave, really. So you're not missing out if you just practice on a few notes. A lot of questions today. That's great. How do you do the classical guitar right hand, and is tapping applicable in jazz? I think so. I don't think anybody would tell you that. Say so, then screw them, right? Who cares? But the classical guitar right hand. Okay. It doesn't really work that well on these strings. The basic of the classical guitar is that your you see that? Your wrist is not touching the guitar, and the pinky, they'll cut it off if they see you doing this. So you're always floating, right? And you're kind of floating over the strings. And the problem is that the classical guitar have the strings are thicker, and they're also further apart, a lot further apart. And so you have room for your fingers. I have a hard time with the guitar like this. So when I'm playing something more classical, I barely remember this. So if this is an intro to a song, but when I play that, I really have to be careful because I get stuck in between the strings. I don't know. It's really hard for me to do. But with a classical guitar, this is what works better. So what I do when I play on the electric, maybe sometimes I do catch the guitar with my little finger. Sometimes I do this with my thumb. It depends. So I'm not, for classical guitar, you really need a classical guitar. And I am safe and well at home. Oh, that's great. Yeah, you too. You too, Kim. See you. Yes, non-chord tones act like calling, chord tones act like responses to me. That's good. That's how I approach it. But what did you think? Well, that's what I think. That's what I said. But other than that, well, use timing. timing is important when you talk. You have inflections, and also you have how long certain notes would last. And so I think if you keep moving, you don't feel that you've resolved. For example, that's something that most people don't use when they try to conclude a melody or opening it up. And so the actual cadence of what you're playing, I'm not talking about musical cadence, I'm talking about actual speech cadence, like how long do you take between syllables or words or notes, whatever you want to talk about. It helps a lot telling who's listening if you are, you're opening it up or you're closing it down. And also then you can get more advanced, so you can have phrases that are open, 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 and then close, or open, half close them, open them again and close them for real. And that has a lot to do also with what chords are underneath. Okay, so depending on what chords are under what you're doing, then the melody will take on a different feeling. Harmonization approaches. What do you mean? Let's say, Ray, what do you mean by harmonization approaches? Like melodies with each other, or harmonizing scales? Oh yeah, Priest and Maiden, right? Well, there are many. With rock and roll, we're kind of tied again because the sound is such a big part of it, and so we have distortion and we have stuff. But harmonizing with another guitar player is easier because then we break out of this problem, right, of having such highest amount of dissonance. And so, well, one basic thing, I mean, Maiden was famous for, and Priest, the basic harmonizing. That's so helpful. Do you recommend any books? Okay, well, let me get back to you just in a second. But about harmonizations, one basic thing is thirds, right? That's a lot of the Priest, Lgion, Maiden, and so you play a scale like a simple melody, and there are several degrees, right? We're going to talk about not moving to other scales. So let's say we're in C major, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, and let's take A, C, B, C. You know what? I can probably put it in the looper if you're patient. Okay, let's try it. Man, I'm set up in the wrong way to do this. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? So this is my basic. That sounds like shit. But anyway, so I play A, C, B, C. One great way to do it is to find a third and play 1/3 up or down. So you hear that? That's 1/3 over what I was playing. So if I was playing A, B, C, I'm counting 3 notes, A, B, C, and I do it again from C. So C, E, D, E. I could keep going up. And I would find, I get back to that. And so 1/3 above what I'm playing. So if I'm playing A, B, C, I'm going to repeat it because I don't know if you heard me. A, B, C, I count 3 notes up. A, B, C becomes C, D, E. And I play the same figure 1/3 up. And that gives you that sound. You can also try it backwards. So 1/3 backwards is a sixth. So A backwards, G, F. So I could play the same thing, F, F, A, G, A. Let's see what it sounds like. Uh-oh, I think I just erased the first one. Let me do it again. Oh man, what happened? There you go. Okay, this is A again. I'm gonna play F over it. You hear that? That's 1/3 back, so it's a sixth. Now I'm gonna put one over the other. I'm gonna record, if I can do it. I'm gonna record this part. And now I can play 1/3 up. Now it sounds a bit more like what you were talking about. Actually, I can record all of this. C. So we have the third up, the third down with this. Wow, that sounds horrible. No, there you go. Right? And yeah, so there you have it. It kind of sounds like Maiden, right? And that's what it works like. That's what it sounds like. You can do it with other intervals, fifths, fourths, you know, some of them sound happier, some are more dark. It doesn't matter. But yeah, so hopefully that answers your question. Okay, that's so helpful. Well, thank you very much. Books. Books for call and response. Let me get back to you on that because we're gonna do one of these just about books. Okay, so let's keep it for the next one, but let's save it. But we'll do one on guitar books if you guys want. We'll do one more hangout. Well, we'll do a lot more, but the next one maybe, or one of those will be about books. Since we're talking about songwriting, can you tell us about the commercial part of this? For example, if I want to write a song to a famous artist, yeah. Well, that's a difficult thing to do. Should I do it on Instagram, mail, or through his manager? And what about... Okay, well, protecting the song, it was a big deal when I started out in the 90s. Nowadays, with there are so many channels you upload your stuff to, like you have a snippet of your song on Instagram. You know, whenever you record something, it's yours. The problem back then was to prove that you had written it. So I remember actually sending tapes to companies and managers and cassettes and sending a copy to myself and then send it to Congress because I was living in America. And nowadays, I wouldn't say that's superfluous, but I don't think you have to worry too much about it. So I would probably just register it, you know, at your local agency, like I don't know, BMI, ASCAP. You're in Italy, so it's CI in Italy. You record it, and that's it. You're safe. And then you have to send it. I don't know, you know, that's hard for me to answer because I only write my own music usually. And if I collaborate, then we set it up. You know, we write down what we're doing and we sign it. So we're cool with it. But if you want to write a song for somebody, I would probably go through the manager because everything else is really hard. Instagram, you know, I mean, I put out records and sometimes it takes me, it's a lot of work. It took me more work to go to #1 on the rock charts in iTunes in Spain, which means selling 2 records, than actually making the album. It's really hard. There's so much music coming out. There's so much stuff that is really hard to find you. So I would say if you find a channel to a manager or to the artist himself, depending on the size of the artist, you know, it's difficult. But manager is the best option. Also, if you know the studio they work at, you can maybe send the stuff to the studio. You know, be considerate. Send a nice cover letter. You know, explain what you're doing. Keep it short, very short. The shorter the better. Nobody will read it anyway. Just say what you want and drop it in the mail and hope for the best. You know, but be brief and respectful. That's the main thing. People who are disrespectful in any way, you know, even just overzealous, you like sending 5 pages of your whole life. I'm sure it's not your case, but you know, be very considerate of people's time and you should be okay. Hello, Panda. Who is your favorite metal guitarist? Oh, wow. Metal. Like real metal? I would have to say for metal, probably Randy Rhoads. It's strange because I haven't, you know, I always loved Randy Rhoads, but I didn't listen to him for many, many years. And then I put it back on and I could hear stuff that reminded me of the way I play, of course, with due differences, you know, with due distance. But it just sticks to you, you know, like the kind of resolution and the kind of phrasing sometimes with legatos. It's really strange. Sometimes I put artists on and I'm like, wow, now I exactly remember when I listened to this when I was, you know, 15 years old. I remember, when was it? I used to listen to Dio all the time when I first discovered like heavier stuff. And I actually became friends with Ronnie, and it was actually, we were talking about kind of the business side of it a little while ago, and he gave me great tips, you know, not tips, but, you know, knowledge. He gave me such a good perspective of things that sometimes growing up in a small town in Italy, you know, you don't really get. So, but anyway, Vivian Campbell was, I haven't listened to that stuff. Well, I listened to Dio, but I haven't followed Vivian in so many years. And then I saw a video like not long ago and like, wow, look at this. You know, there's so many things that I picked up when I was a kid listening to Holy Diver, and it still kind of ties us together like 30 years later, right? Or 20 in my case, since I've been listening to that, like teaching wise when I was learning. So it's amazing how many players are part of it. But I was more into the rock and roll part. So my biggest things, of course, Hendrix, huge, Jeff Beck. For the more instrumental stuff, Satriani was a big thing, especially when Crystal Planet came out. It blew my head off. I mean, it blew my mind. My parents brought it home and I put it on and I was floored. I'm like, how can anybody play like this? I thought my guitar was broken because I'm like, there's no way I can produce these sounds. It wasn't even the technique, it was the sound, the textures, and the sonic scape. Then, of course, Steve Vai, I think it counts as metal because I saw Crossroads when I was a kid. And that Crossroads and seeing AC/DC live for my very first concert with AC/DC when I was 15, that shifted everything for me. I wanted to be Freddie Mercury. Because I'm a huge Queen fan. I'm the biggest Queen fan in the world. And when I saw, and everybody was telling me, yeah, you know, you don't sing too good. You know, maybe play the guitar. And I never wanted to listen to them because I wanted to be Freddie. And then I saw AC/DC live. And then 1 month later, I saw Satriani, Steve Vai, and Adrian Legg on the G3, the first one. And then I saw a bunch of bands and Chuck Berry, and I saw all these people. And I realized, well, maybe I could play the guitar, you know. And then I saw Steve Vai playing Crossroads, or maybe before then, you know. But that was it. I'm like, okay, this is what I'm doing. So I don't know. There's so many. But rock, I mean, Blackmore, Page, you know. I like it. You know, the other thing is I like everyone. And somebody was asking about Indian music. Well, Ravi Shankar, I have not all his records because there's like dozens, but I know him very well. I know his music very, very well. What is the orangey red guitar? That one? No, that one. That's actually an Epiphone like this one. It's a Les Paul, and it's a strange guitar because it's made by Epiphone. I think it's made in somewhere in Asia, but it's an actual. It's kind of like a Gibson guitar because it's made all with Gibson parts, the electronics, the selector, and the pickups are Gibson 57, 57 plus. And I wanted something that sounded like a Les Paul because I didn't have it. And I didn't feel like spending a lot of money on a Les Paul that I only would use in the studio mainly for, you know, to have that sound. And so I bought that, and thinking that I would change things around, and I haven't touched it. It's a great guitar. And I have, of course, I've tried many Les Pauls, you know, old ones, new ones. And I wouldn't say it sounds better than all of them, but most of them. So I'm very happy with it. It's a tribute. I think it's called Les Paul Tribute something. And great guitar. I can play my major and harmonic minor scale. Okay, well, we talked about the metronome just a little while, but yeah, you know, once this is done, go back and watch it, and we talked about how to use the metronome, but how to approach fast timing. Well, as I said before, you have to go back to a timing or to a tempo that doesn't cause any problems. So if you find that you can't go further than 120, don't stay at 120. Don't even go at 112. Go way back at a point where you're relaxed on the guitar, and then raise it slowly until you find the first glimpse of tension or of difficulty. And that's where you work. And so maybe 85 or whatever, 90, and then you go 95, and then you catch something else at 100 and you fix it, and then you go 110 and you catch it and you fix it. And by the time you get to 120 again, you have realized that it's not one problem that screws you up at 120. It's all these little things that come together. And so that's how you approach it. Okay, but yeah, please go back and there's more information. Hi, Andre. I was wondering which is your own favorite song? Oh, wow. That's the best and worst question. I don't know. I think maybe it's, I don't know. Thanks for the question, because it means you're listening to them. So thank you very much. Well, by popularity, I think One is the most popular song by far. But as far as writing it, I don't know. I think In Dreams might be the most... not even my favorite, I think, because there are very simple songs I wrote that I love, like The Best We Can on the last record. I wrote it in 5 minutes. But I think In Dreams is maybe the most accomplished song. Does it make sense? Maybe not the, you know, it's maybe not my favorite because I don't have a favorite, but I can see it as a very accomplished song. And maybe same with The Traveler. Is they're quite accomplished songs, song-wise and emotionally. So yeah, but you know, I like all of them, almost all of them. But I won't tell you which ones I don't like. No, I'm kidding. I like all of them. Otherwise, I wouldn't put them on record. How do you practice improvising? Any suggestion on how to follow chords? Yeah, I practice improvising by. It depends. What are you practicing improvising for? If I'm becoming familiar with a scale, or a feel, or a technique, or a sound, or a style, then I become very specific. If I'm playing, I don't know, what's a scale that screws people up? Well, the pentatonic we talked about earlier, like the pentatonic without the seventh, but with the sixth. Playing this all over the neck is a bit of a mess. You know, it's hard because it changes your whole way of playing pentatonic, which is so ingrained in a lot of guitar players. And so what I would do, if I can control it and handle it all over the neck, I would just select a small region of the neck and play and play and play. And it usually will go in two phases. One phase is to just get the right scale, right? This is not musical, you know, I'm just... I'm just trying to iron things out, to put it into my fingers, also avoiding, you know, sliding back into the old scale. That's what I do first, and then as soon as I can, and that's important, don't play exercises all the time. You know, you have to play how you want to play, so as soon as possible, I start making music with it. You know, and I try to be consistent and being emotionally, you know, charged and playing stuff that makes sense. And I try to look at it from the outside and see that if I'm starting to kind of move my fingers around with no purpose, I rein it in as soon as possible. And I apply this to everything. I also do it on one string. I've done that a lot since I read the Goodrick book. You know, 1 finger, 2 fingers, 3 fingers, one string, every scale, in every key, in every mode. You know, it's infinite. Yeah, okay. Well, there's a lot of questions today, so thank you very much, guys. I appreciate it because I'm doing this, and I'm not bringing the coronavirus up anymore because it's like now everything is about the coronavirus. But you know, we're stuck at home, a lot of us, and so I'm glad to see that there are questions, that you guys are logging on. So if I can, you know, if I can help you out with this, also, you know, why? It's not really to make you feel better. I don't think a video of mine will make you feel better about the virus, and it's not even about passing the time, because I'm sure there are a lot more fun things to do than watching me on YouTube. But one very useful thing is that we do have more time to practice and to play. And so if and you have a question, and so, you know, hopefully this is a forum where you can come and you can get some kind of answer at least, and it will help you out, you know, making the most out of this time. Because for a lot of us, if we are healthy, it's also an opportunity. You know, if you and your own family are good, then it's an opportunity also to do things that usually you might not be able to. So, yeah. Stay safe and love you. Well, right back at you, man. Yeah, take care. Okay, so how long has it been going? 1 hour? I can see it. Yeah, almost exactly 1 hour. Well, 1 hour and 10 minutes. Okay, so how about we wait maybe a few seconds if you guys have any more pressing questions. If not, maybe we can do one more of these. Well, we'll do many more, but we'll do one maybe on today's Sunday. Maybe we could do Tuesday, maybe Thursday. I don't know if it's too many for you guys. Maybe you get bored, but I don't mind being here on Tuesday or Thursday. Let me know. Maybe you can write in the comments or in the chat. If you... Yeah, Alex, see you too. I'll see you soon. Yeah. And get the record out on iTunes so I can listen to it, you know, and get it. And let me know where I can buy a CD. You know, Desafinados, this guy, his name is Alex, great guitar player, just putting out a CD. We should all check it out. I'll let you know when he's out on one of these chats. If we have someone like you that is ahead in this world of music and guitarist, it's really helpful, so thank you. You're always kind and professional. Well, thanks, man. I wouldn't say I'm very far ahead, but you know, it's appreciated, and anything we can do, you know, we all know certain things, and you know, we do what we can, and if there's anything I know that can be translated then to your situation, then great. Thanks. So anyway, maybe I'll see you on Tuesday or Thursday. Let me know. If you want to make sure to not miss it, it's announced, these chats are announced on, I mean, these Hangouts, I announced them on Instagram and on Facebook. You can just look for Andre Tonelli, it comes up. And also on YouTube, they will be scheduled. I usually do it maybe the day before or the same day with the right time. And if you are from America, this might catch you a bit early in the day. If it's a problem, let me know, and we'll try to accommodate you. But otherwise, we keep the same time, 6:30, around 6:30 my time, which is about 1:30 New York, 10:30 in the morning for LA. Okay? Well, thanks again very much. I assume we're done with the questions for today. You've been great. You asked some very good questions. And those who we haven't answered in detail, we'll get into them. I'll try to remember now because they were so clear just 5 minutes ago and now they're gone. But I'll leave this up on YouTube so you can watch it as many times as you want. If you want to spread the word about these chats, you know, great, because we can be more and do more stuff. And see you soon, all right? Well, thanks again. See you on the next one, probably Tuesday, otherwise Thursday. I'll let you guys know. Bye-bye.